Hey, what's going on, guys? I've put switches and wired things on my bike, and I guess maybe I just haven't been detailed enough. So what I'm going to do is just kind of explain what I've done, go over it all, and this is how to wire a switch on your pocket bike, and we're just going to go over it here. So I got some basic things, some wire strippers. This is wire strippers and cutters, basic tools. And then this right here is a rocker switch you can get from your local hardware store, or you can also get it from your auto parts store, Kragen, O'Reilly's, AutoZone, Pep Boys, wherever you want to go. And this is just regular wire. This is actually speaker wire that we'll just use here today. This is wire that I bought with my soldering iron. I have a soldering iron right here. This gets really hot when you have it plugged in, and then this is solder. And then what happens is when the two elements are combined heat, you take heat and then you put the solder, touch the solder to it or to the wires that you want to join, and this metal will melt on the soldering iron, and it'll join the two wires together. It'll melt, and then when you take the iron away, it'll cool and it'll harden, and the wires won't come disconnected at all. But I'll show you that a little later. And this right here is my power supply. This is actually an AC to DC converter, because your pocket bike, boat, car, whatever you have is DC. Your house is AC. So up there it's plugged into the outlet. That's AC, which is your house, stands for alternate current, and this will convert AC into DC. So for my little video here, so you guys will see, so it'll convert it to the same power that's on your pocket bike or motorcycle or in your car. So AC is your house, DC is your pocket bike in this case. Like the rock group AC/DC, there you go. So anyways, AC to DC. So don't confuse DC with AC or vice versa. You can't use the same switches and stuff for your house. Your house is a lot stronger than a little 12-volt battery on your pocket bike. And so don't confuse the two. This is just directly going to be DC, direct current. And otherwise, you try and mess with your house current using DC stuff, or you don't know what you're doing, it's not going to end well, trust me. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to pretend this DC inverter here, converter, we're going to pretend this is the battery on the X18. So if you want to wire a switch that's coming directly off the battery, sorry, text message. So if you want to wire a switch that's coming directly off the battery, if you want to wire something coming directly off the battery, let's say you have LEDs or something you want to add, or how I added a reverse camera or something like that, you're going to need to install a switch if you're coming directly off the battery. Because if you attach your wire and stuff directly to the battery and then to your light, it's just going to be on constantly. You're going to need to interrupt that power some way, and this is a rocker switch. It has 3 prongs, 1, 2, 3. Anyways, if you just connect it straight to your battery, it's just going to be on all the time, and it's going to drain your battery. So you want a way to interrupt it and cut it off and on when you want. Unless you wire it to something on the bike that already has a switch. When I added my H.I.D kit, I put it on the switch where you cut off and on the lights already on the X18. I have a video on my H.I.D kit install, but if you wire it somewhere where there's already a switch in between it, then you don't have to do this and add your own switch. But if you're coming directly off the battery, you're going to need a switch, otherwise it's going to be on constantly. So to come off of your battery and add a switch, you just take your wire, and wire is identified. Anytime you have wire, it's either red and black, or it'll be 2 different colors. Red is positive, black is negative. It's all the same. It's all copper in the inside. No matter what wire you have, if you have a headphone or a plug or an extension cord, it's all copper on the inside, but on the outside they identify it. It'll either be 2 different colors, or it'll have writing on it or something. In this case, how you identify it here, there's a white stripe on this one. There's a white stripe on this one, and there's nothing on that one. Because if they were both the same and you couldn't identify them, if you couldn't tell which one was which, well, what would happen is you'd connect it to your battery, and then on the other end, you'd go to connect it to make a switch, or, you know, connect it to your light, and since they'd be the same, you wouldn't know which one to connect it to, and you might connect it to the wrong one, and that would end badly. So the wire on the inside is the same, but they use different methods, you know, on the inside. I'll grab another wire so you guys can see, but different methods to color code it to identify which is which. You don't want them to touch, and that's why every wire you see is insulated or coated with something so they don't touch. And another quick tip, if you guys are gonna cut or splice or, you know, join wires, you know, don't cut them evenly. I just did here, but don't cut them evenly. If you're gonna do it, you know, a good way to do it is cut them unevenly, like that. That way when you strip it and the wire is exposed, let me just strip it really quick here, and there. That way when you strip it and the wire is exposed and you attach your new wire to each end and you twist them and join them, that way when the wire's there, they don't touch each other. You know, you'll twist them, join them together, you know, you'll take your new wire and twist it, you know, whatever you want, and then join it, solder it, and then you'll put electrical tape around it. That way, in case the electrical tape or something comes off and the wires are exposed, they're not next to each other and they won't touch because you cut them unevenly. If you cut them evenly and they both come exposed, then they could touch. And that's something you don't want. Trust me, you don't want it. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and, you know, strip each end, and we're gonna join it to the battery. Okay guys, so yeah, like I said, all wire is the same. It just might be thicker or rated for something else. You know, obviously it's not gonna be this thin wire that's attached to your car battery running your car. You know, it's gonna be thicker in different gauges depending on what you're running. But anyway, so yeah, it's just wire, red and black. It's all identified so you know where you're making the connections on the other end. If you guys are gonna try something or do something, put your lights or whatever it is that you want power to, install it, make all your connections on the other end first. Make sure it's nice and secure and no wires are touching, and positive goes to positive and negative goes to negative. Then connect it to your power source, you know, your battery last. Don't connect it to the battery and then go on the other end and start doing stuff, because your battery is live. It's giving off power. So if you touch something or mess something up and you've already connected it, it's not going to end well. So trust me, you could blow something or hurt yourself. You know, 12 volt, it's not going to give off that much of a shock, but it will. You'll feel a little tickle. You'll start to shake, you know what I mean? So anyways, positive, negative, that's all it is. All the wires the same on the inside, but it's, you know, identified by a different color. That way you know where to make your connections. Positive to positive, negative to negative. Plus, minus, positive, negative. You know, in, out, you know, plus, minus, positive, negative. So anyways, we have our rocker switch. We'll get to that in a second. And then, you know, so if this is the battery on the X18, you go ahead and attach the positive to positive, negative to negative. Here it's identified by with a white stripe, and that's how I know that it's positive. So positive, negative. So here's our light. You know, I have just some extra LEDs here. So we'll go ahead and attach positive to positive and negative to negative, just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So this is why we need a switch. So positive to positive. So if you guys just twist something together like this, you know what I mean? Wrap it with electrical tape, or you could even use these. I forget the exact name, these couplers or whatever. There's metal on the inside of them. So if you attach it and put it in there and twist it, you know, these are good, you know, because then the wires won't touch. But what happens is you twist it, and the tighter you twist it, it'll lock it in there, and it'll lock those wires together, and nothing will touch, and it's secure and it's on there. And then for added measure, you can even put electrical tape around that. Normally these are used for your house, you know, when you're joining wire together and stuff like that, but you can use them for speaker wire, or in this case, or whatever. But personally, I would choose to solder these. That way they'll never come off. I would solder them. That's what I did on my bike. So then you don't have to worry. You know, when you're riding around or you go over a bump or the bike vibrates, you know it's never going to come off. But anyway, so positive to positive, and then we'll join negative to negative. So as you see, I have the power off. So if I were making this connection, I do everything on the bike, then I, attach it to the battery last. So positive to positive, negative to negative, and then I'll cut it on. And as you can see, it lights up. So that's what will happen. If you have LED lights or a monitor or a camera like I put on my X18 and you run it directly off the battery, what's going to happen is it's going to be on all the time, 24/7, and that's why you need a switch. That's why you want a rocker switch, to interrupt that power so you tell it when you want it off and on. So that's what we're going to do. I just wanted you to see this is what will happen if you connect something directly to the battery, positive and negative, and join it to your positive and negative. It's just going to be on all the goddamn time and it'll drain the battery. So we want to install a switch. And that's this rocker switch that we have here. So now I cut it off, and now it doesn't matter if the wires touch. Okay guys, so now we're going to put on the rocker switch. And this is going to manually tell the light when to cut off and on. And this is to keep your battery from draining and stuff like that. So we have the positive and negative coming off the battery, going onto the switch. Now when you buy your rocker switch from AutoZone, it's going to come with a little diagram so you'll know where to connect the positive and negative and so on and so forth. So there's 3 prongs, and there's a little diagram here. But anyways, there's 3 prongs, so we're going to attach the negative to the one on the top, and that's where the power is. Where that dot is up, that's on, that's off. So usually the one at the top is negative. I'm referring to the prong. So that's negative, power out to your light or your device, and then that's positive, that's power coming in from the battery. So anyways, there's a diagram right here on the back of the package explaining that. And when you buy your switch, look at the back of it and make sure that's there to remind you, because it could be different. So anyways, we have the positive and negative coming off the battery onto the switch. So up at the top, that's negative, and at the bottom, that's positive. Okay, so now that's positive and negative coming in. It shows on the diagram, and there you go. So the next thing we want to do is now we need power going to the light. So I attach negative from the battery to the switch, and I also attach negative from the light in the same spot. It's okay if the negative touches, because negative is all negative and you don't have to worry. It's where the power is doing something different. See, this is power coming in, but we also need power going out. So that's why the power is going to be different from the power coming in here. If we just were to join it here, it'd be on constantly. So the negative is already joined at the top with the negative coming in off the battery. So negatives can touch. And there's the positive off the battery. So positive, negative. And now we have the power coming in, or power off the light. So I just have another wire here, stripped each end, and then I'm just going to twist it together just for the video, just so you guys can see. Alright, so that's on the light. Remember, we have positive and negative on the light. So here's the positive, and then the negative is already up here with the negative coming off the battery. So now, of course, if I were joining these, I'd solder these, then I'd go over it with electrical tape. But just in the interest of time, just to show you guys really quick, this is how you do it. So now you have the switch, it's 3 prongs. We have the 2 negatives up top, one from the battery, one to the light. At the very bottom, that's the positive coming in off the battery. So now in the middle, we'll just go ahead, there's hoops here that you put it around, and you want to make sure these don't touch, you want to make sure they don't touch. So you feed it through, there's hoops. See how there's holes? So you feed it through, twist it around, and then it's on there. Now me, I would lightly solder, lightly. You don't want to hold the soldering iron to this because it gets really hot and it can melt the prong and damage the light itself. But anyways, just in the interest of time, I just did it really quick. So now all the connections are made. We have positive and negative coming off the battery, going to positive in, and we learned that from our diagram on the back of the switch. It has power in, 12 volt, that's the power in on the bottom. In the middle is the power going out to the switch, and the negative, that's negative coming in off the battery on the top and negative on the light. So the negatives can touch. This is power going out to the switch, or I'm sorry, going out to the light, and this is power coming in. So that's why there's 3 prongs, because they're all doing something different. So now we have it, and the way that's going to work is, so now we have our rocker switch, and throw the switch, and it works. So that's how you do it. So if I were installing this switch, you know, obviously you want to go to the bike and drill a hole, cut a hole, use a Dremel, drill, whatever, and then you want to mount this in there. You know, do all the connections on the switch first, feed the wires through, mount the switch, and then do your connections down on the other side. But it's that simple. That's all that it is. So when you cut it on, it lights up and it controls your lights. So now you can dictate and tell the light when you want it off or on, because if you come directly off the battery to your lights or whatever you hook up, it's just going to be on non-stop, 24/7, and you don't want that, and it'll drain the battery. So that's it. So power coming in on the bottom, in the middle is power going out to the switch, and the one up top is your 2 negatives. Negative from your device and negative off the battery. And then that's it. So that's how I did the switches on my bike. Now really quick, I'll just do some soldering so you guys can see how it's kind of cutting off and on. It's because the wires are loose. That's why I would solder. But anyways, so it works. Or if you make them tight enough and use electrical tape, you'll be okay. You don't have to worry about it. And then that's how you wire a switch. Real simple. So somebody had asked me to do, actually I got multiple emails, so hopefully this helps you guys. So okay. Also you guys, something that I have is a circuit tester. Circuit tester is this thing. It's really easy. You take one part of it and you ground it to metal, you know, somewhere on the bike or your car or whatever. You ground it to metal, just touch it to raw metal. That's that clamp here. Just for video purposes, I'm just attaching it to the negative. So you put that somewhere, and then if you want to test if you have power coming through, or there's a live connection, or you know, or you could tap in a certain area to get power, then yeah, you ground this end of the circuit tester. It's on a cord, and then you go ahead and touch it to where you think you may have power, and then you see how it lights up. That means you have power coming through. So this is a very useful tool if you're trying to get power from somewhere, or you're making a connection and you want to check to make sure everything's okay and power's coming in. That's all you do. You just ground it, so you touch it to metal. There's a metal clamp, and you clamp it anywhere on the bike or somewhere you know there's metal. In this case I just went to the ground off the battery, but anyway, you could do that as well. And then you touch it to the positive where you think you're getting power, and if it lights up like that does, then you know you're getting power. And that's how a circuit tester works. So now I'm gonna do a quick solder so you guys can see how I solder. Okay you guys, now I'm gonna just do a quick solder just so you can see how to solder and join 2 wires together to make a permanent connection. Okay, so I'm just gonna take these 2 wires. It's not connected to anything. This is just so you can see me solder. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take the 2 exposed wires, and then I'm just gonna twist them together. You know, that way when I solder, I know they're both connected. Okay, then I'll place that there, and then I have the solder in my hand, and then now I have my soldering iron. Your soldering iron is extremely hot. It's very, very hot, and what will happen is it'll melt this solder, and then it'll melt it on the wires or whatever you want to join, the 2 copper or metal objects or whatever. Once this soldering iron touches this solder, it'll melt it, and it'll turn it into a liquid format, and then once you remove the iron that melted it, it'll cool and it'll harden and join it together and be as tough as metal. It won't come off. So that's why I like soldering, especially on a pocket bike, which vibrates a lot when you ride around. So then you don't have to worry about the 2 coming undone. So anyways, I'm the world's worst solderer, but you know, I can get the job done. I'll try to do it at an angle so you guys can see. So you take this, it heats up, you know, go ahead and touch the wire, and then just see how I'm putting it on there, and it's just melting. Just touch it on there, touch it on the wire. And that's it. That's how you solder. You know, for these purposes, just joining wire together. Like actually soldering on a motherboard, you need a different soldering iron, and one with a fine point and a little more of a steady hand. So anyways, so you see how it's on there, you see how it's metallic, like the metal, so it's on there, and it's already cool, and the wires won't come apart. And that's how you solder. So you just put some electrical tape around it. It's still a little warm. So you put some electrical tape around it, and then that's it. That's how you solder. All you do is take your soldering iron, you touch it to the wires that are joined together, and then take your solder and touch it either to the wire or right on top of the soldering iron at the end, and it'll just go ahead and melt it. If your soldering iron is sitting on the wire for a while, it'll heat the wire as well, and then you can just touch the wire and the solder will melt. But anyways, that's it. That's how you do it, and it's not coming undone. So there you guys go. I'm not the best solderer in the world. I'm pretty sure there's some other YouTube videos, but I've been getting emails asking me how to solder, how to connect it to a switch, and so on and so forth. You could also solder on the switch, you know, put your wire there and then solder on there if you want, or you could just go ahead and put it through the hoop, you know, and twist it around really good, and then put some electrical tape. But if you solder or splice or connect wires, make sure you put something over it. You can use one of these, or you can go ahead and use some black electrical tape, you know, because you don't want the wires to be exposed. You never want positive and negative to touch. Trust me, you never want them to touch. So anyways, yeah, that's it. That's how you solder, and you know, this just really quick. If I wanted to, I'd add some more, and then you don't have to worry about the bike vibrating or anything. It's not going to come undone. It's not. That's it. It's permanent. You can take your soldering iron and touch it to the metal, and it'll melt the solder, and then you could take them apart, or you just take some wire cutters, you know, no big deal, and then just cut it. If you were done with it, just cut it. There you go.